two teachers going for promotion. Both hate job interviews.
The last interview was a disaster.
Sometimes I get lost as to exactly what they want from me.
We put them through a mock interview.
How important is it that middle leaders act as role models?
Give them expert coaching.
It sounds a bit more like a leader would express that.
And see if they can improve their performance.
Time when you do feel very confident, very relaxed, very in control. I'm going to ask you to sort of visualise that now. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is just to sort of put your thumb and then your middle finger together and just press them together when you've got that picture. And I'll take you through that again. So if you see what you saw and hear what you heard and then feel what you felt and then just really push them together and then let go. And you sort of lock it in there. And it means that then when we're on that walk to the interview room that we're going to sort of practice in a second, you're able to almost sort of press the switch. And then you're able to go in with that in your mind rather than your head just being full of, I feel nervous, I feel really worried. Are you happy to sort of share what that experience was?
The experience was in my job, and it was in teaching, and it was actually in my classroom.
Right, okay.
And it was the students, and I knew that they were learning, and I knew that they were understanding physics. And I felt very happy that they were progressing, and I felt confident in myself because of the way I delivered it to them, and then they had progressed.
You get that feeling of confidence.
Reliving his experience in the classroom, Colin imagines he's walking to the interview.
And then if you just want to walk forward a bit longer, see, you've got that. Talk me through what you're saying to yourself now.
I'm going to do everything I can. I'm doing my very, very best.
Yep.
And I really want the job.
How did that feel?
Much better. Much better, actually.
Now it's Raj's turn. The panel was worried about her choice of language.
Put a hell of a lot of effort into it.
I noted down a few of the phrases that you use, which, as it's coaching, I'm not judging you on. I'm just going to put them to you. And then what I thought we could do is literally reframe them. You were talking about something you'd done, and you'd say, I'd let them know I'm on the case.
Okay.
So do you want to just write that down, please? So I'm on the case. Think about a colleague who's a leader within the school, who you respect, who deals with things very effectively and uses the language that you want to use. What would they say?
Looking into it...
would that feel better for you?
It feels better than dealing with it.
Okay, yeah. A hell of a lot of effort into it. What did you want the interview panel to know at that point about that issue?
A lot of time and effort went into the project.
Okay. Yeah, and that feels better for you. Brilliant. Let's pop that down then. What we're doing is just beginning this process of thinking through perhaps some of the phrases you're using and then tweaking them so that they sound more like the leadership role that you're applying for.
That seems very crass sort of thing. Okay. It seems very much someone not of leadership quality as such.
Okay.
In her presentation, Raj resorted to reading her notes. What could she do instead?
I suppose bullet points, a few points on a page is obviously a lot easier to get back onto track rather than the whole sentences.
Raj often misunderstood the question.
Could you ask me that second part again?
Well, you mentioned about sometimes needing to check in what the question was, and you found that you were answering a different question and then you had to go back. In future you will what then? Next time I will...
Clarify what the question is.
How are you going to clarify that with me as the interviewer?
Would you mind rephrasing it? Sorry, do you mind saying that again? Do you mind saying that again?
So we got rid of the sorry, so it sounds a bit negative. Any other tweaks about do you mind?
Can you?
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Does that feel less negative for you now?
It makes me feel more confident.
Great. Okay.
And then there was the question about what she'd do in the first 3 months as head of department.
3 months' time, maybe a little bit longer, maybe it's not just 3 months period.
And at one point you seemed to suggest you were tweaking the question in terms of then actually it's 6 months. Could you imagine some of the questions, queries, concerns that might be arising in the head's or the deputy head's mind as you mentioned just that?
When I become head of department, nothing's going to happen. You know, I've got no agenda in mind.
What could you say in addition to what you've just said, or you might want to take bits out? Just work with that now.
Within the first 3 months, I'd want to try and get everybody comfortable with my leadership, the way I want to lead, you know, the way I lead. But in my mind, I have a vision for the future, and this is where I want the department to go. But obviously, they can't read my mind.
Not quite.
For the last 2 weeks, Colin has been working on the strategies Lee gave him.
So I found the coaching session most useful. It's just really helped me to be able to think about how to answer a question properly without remembering reams and reams of text. I'm hoping that the sequences that I got from the coach, that they'll help me to be more calm and settled as I walk in. I have practiced that, and hopefully it will show that up. So I'm hoping that, you know, what I've practiced at home will actually come into play tomorrow, and it'll really help the situation.
The coaching session was brilliant. Got so much out of it. I've been a lot more aware of myself in terms of the way I speak, the way I come across, my language. I've been very careful about, you know, what sort of language I use. If I want to become head of department, then I need to believe that I can become and act like I can. I'm happy, a lot more happy about going into the scenario than I was before.
Back at Oaks Park, it's the day of the second interview. The panel will get to see if the candidates have upped their game. Steve and Kevin are joined by Year 11 student Ross. Meanwhile, Colin and Raj are psyching themselves up.
I'm walking towards the interview now. I'm feeling calm. I'm thinking about when the students were understanding this tough concept in physics. They were all able to understand it, and they were able to grasp the concept by the end of the lesson.
I want to be myself, I want to be confident, I want to be the person I am in front of my classes and let them know what you're capable of.
I'm approaching the interview door now and thinking this is going to go very well. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to do my very best. I'm feeling confident.
Colin starts his 2-minute presentation.
Firstly, I'd like to say that I'm very passionate about the role. I've taken on additional responsibilities such as the Year 10 Gold Pathway students. Again, helping those students to really set their own targets in performance review day and monitoring and helping them to achieve the best that they possibly can.
What would you say is the difference between leadership and management?
Okay, well, management, as it comes across, is very much ticking boxes and making sure everything is happening as it should be. Leadership is having an ethos about how I want things to work and leading your team and guiding your team and helping your team to work towards the common goal.
What will you do for the students in your subject area that would make students like us want to support your claim to this job?
I think it can offer the students, firstly and foremostly, passion. As a classroom teacher, I want the best for my students. As a key stage coordinator, I want the best for the students, and I really would want to demonstrate to the students that I'm there for them and I'm there to support them. So making them buy into that ethos, really by explaining it fully and making sure they're aware of where I'm coming from and what I expect.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the answers were certainly better. I took that pause before I answered the question, and then also I stopped before I started to completely repeat myself continually. On the way down, I was able to settle my nerves a lot more, even though at times I felt more nervous in the lead up, but actually whenever I walked into the room, I felt a lot calmer than I ever have.
Now it's Raj's turn. Her presentation went very wrong last time.
A head of department role is a key role in the school, not only for the success of the school, but raising standards of the students. A head of department needs to have a mission, they have to have a direction, and they have to have motivation, all of which I have. I'm also very, very passionate about my job. I love my job. I love developing initiatives. I love seeing success. And I just want to finish off by saying that I'm really eager and excited about taking the next step into my career.
Okay, thank you very much. What would you see as the biggest challenge for middle managers as firstly individuals and secondly as team leaders?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. What would you see as the biggest challenge for middle managers? So if you were appointed, firstly to you as an individual and then secondly as being a leader of a team.
I think it's very important for a middle leader to have a direction, to have a vision of where they want the department to go. I suppose the challenge would be to know exactly where that direction is, to have a very clear vision and again to communicate it across to the department.
If you were successful today, what would you do to develop your team of staff?
It's really important, I think. It's really important to be positive. It's really important to praise people when they do something good and, you know, give the opportunity for people in my department to take on responsibilities, give them give them a purpose, not only as a class teacher, but develop them professionally as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. Well done.
I was very conscious of my speech, so I'm hoping that that came across. I think my 2-minute presentation was better. I had my notes on paper, but I didn't need to look at them because I did practice a lot more.
So what's the panel's verdict?
First of all, I'd like to say that we felt you both made significant improvements. If I could outline the main points, first of all, Colin, and I think one of the big improvements I felt in your performance this time was that your answers were a lot more concise and you'd really thought more carefully about the questions. I think during the first interview we had a couple of weeks ago, we felt that you talked for a long period of time and perhaps at the end of it I'd really lost what the question was about. I think if I look down my pad this time I see, you know, very clearly you still managed to bring through your answers what I think you're all about, and that's passion, enthusiasm and commitment.
You know, you both were able to be yourselves much more today. The other big difference I thought though was you came in today expecting to not let yourself down. There was a much more clearly seen, from my perspective, way in which today you were managing that anxiety because you didn't let yourself down. You know, some really, really good answers, and when you'd answered them, you shut up at that point rather than answered it again and in some cases a third time as well. So it's really good.
Can I move on to Raj? If you're looking in terms of improvement, I think you made a big leap between the 2 weeks. It was very thoughtful. The language was much better, although I felt you started off with a term that I wouldn't use in an interview when you talked about you guys.
Yes,
yeah.
I knew it. As soon as I said it, I knew it, yeah.
Also, you brought the notes in, and last time it was like, you know, boom, there are the notes, I'm reading the notes. You weren't reading the notes this time, they were just there, and you talked through your presentation, and again, had lots and lots of good ideas.
So a massive improvement really for both of you, but particularly you, Raj, I thought.
I've learned a lot. I still have to learn more, but I actually went in there, I knew what I was doing wrong, whereas before I didn't.
Well, it's been an excellent experience. I feel more confident going into interviews. As Raj has been saying, I still think that there's a way to go. There's still a learning curve, but this is, I think we're a good way along it, and just bring on the next interview, really.
For Lee McAuliffe's top tips on interview techniques, go to the Teachers TV website.